All right. So yeah, hello and welcome to my session about the Disco API, where Disco stands for Discovery API. And I will go over the capabilities of the API to some examples on tools, how it's used by tools, and so on, and how you can maybe use it. First of all, about myself. So my name is Gerrit Grunwald. I'm working for Azul. More specifically for Fuji.io, which you might have heard about. If not, then just check out Fuji.io. We try to collect all things Java, really everything from server to IoT to desktop, whatever you have on mind, mobile. Yeah, I'm working with Java for, I don't know, since 2020. No, 2000, sorry. So it's around 20 years now. So let's get started with the API stuff. So the idea behind the Disco API is discovering different distributions of OpenJDK as a service. So that might sound a little bit strange in the beginning. So why would you like to have a service that serves you OpenJDK distributions? But I will come to that in a while. So let me give you just a short example. Let's say you need JDK 11.0.8. Then there are a couple of questions you have to answer. So first one is, which distribution can offer this version that you are looking for, right? Then the second question would be, does this distribution support 11.08, right? You don't know from the beginning because some distributions do support specific versions, other do not, so it really depends. The third question is, does the distribution support your operating system and also the architecture? Let's say you are on Mac, then you could have x64 or you can have ARM64. So that makes a difference, right? So you have to make sure that this is that's available for your machine. Then the fourth question would be, are you allowed to use it? Because some distributions are allowed to use in production, others not. For some you have to pay, for others not. It really depends. And the fifth question is, where do you get it from? Because every distribution has its own way on getting it, right? So the situation is we have many, many different distributions of OpenJDK. And not all distributions support all versions. And then most of the distributions are free, but some are not. And some distributions have special features, right? So they have specific garbage collectors, or they have other features. They might be optimized for usage on ARM processors or whatever. So it's this is just something that you will find. And then, like I said already, every distribution has its own way to get it, right? There is no central place where you can get a Java distribution, a JDK distribution. So, and it's not an easy choice. So let me give you just a short overview about distributions that are available right now, which are a lot, as you can see. And I also put in the GraalVM things like GraalVM itself, Liberica Native, Mandrel. And you see there are a lot of different OpenJDK distributions available. And this is the list that the Disco API is able to serve at the moment, right? So, but you can imagine it's not an easy choice. So the idea is, what about having a general API that serves information about the distributions itself, the versions that are available, the platforms, the operating systems, the architectures, archive types, which is the file ending, if you like, the release status, which could be early access or general availability, terms of support, that means something like short-term stable, mid-term stable, long-term stable, or long-term support. It depends how you define it. The package types, which could be a JDK or a JRE, and other stuff, right? Like you could also think about, give me all JDK distributions that are TCK tested, for example, right? That would be one thing that you might want to do. So this is the idea behind Disco. So that's we figured out that might be an interesting thing to use, to have. So we created that API. which is in principle just, it has some REST endpoints that you can ask for different things. And I will give you now some examples what the API can do for you. And after that, we can go into the examples of tools that already use the API. So let's say, first of all, we have the major endpoint, which is api.2j.io. And then you have /disco/v.2.0, which is version 2 at the moment. And then, for example, major versions, distributions, packages /JDKs or /JREs. Packages is the thing that we define as, some people say it's a bundle. We say it's a package, right? Which is the thing that you download. That's what we define as a package. Distributions is in principle, the distributions that I mentioned before. Major versions is something like 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's not with the update level behind it, like 8.0.302 or something. It's just the 8. That's the major version. And that's usually where you start looking, right? You'd say, I need JDK 17, right? Or JDK 11 or whatever. And then we have something which is ephemeral IDs. And what we do is we don't really collect all the packages. We collect just the links to the packages. And because we just serve you the link, it's hard for us to really count the downloads, right? But we would like to know, okay, to do some statistics, we need to do that. So we try to avoid caching these IDs and links, because we would like to know if people download something via the DiscoAPI. And so we have this ephemeral ID thing that changes every 10 minutes. And you have to get this ID first, and with that ID, you can then get the package. And so with this, we can just count downloads. Let's take a look at the major versions endpoint. If you call that one, we have some URL parameters like EA equals true, which means early access. That means just include every major version, but also the ones that are early access, which is at the moment 18, for example. Or just give me the GA ones. Or we also have something like the maintained ones. So that means for JDK 8, you will still get updates. For 13, there will be updates. For 16, I think not anymore at the moment, at least not. For 17 and 18 EA, of course, and 15, 13, yeah, that's the list. And if you ask for maintained, then you will get the versions that are in this list. And that will be updated over time, that's for sure. And this is, for example, then the response. So you get something like major version is, it's a typo because I just typed it in. It's 18, and then versions, this is wrong, right? So the first entry is just not correct. But you will see in 16, the lowest one of these three, there you see the major version is 16. The term of support is short-term stable. The maintained is true. That means this is a maintained one. You can expect that there will be updates for this JDK. Then there is early access only, which is true for 18, for example. That means for this major version, you will only get early access builds. There are no GAs yet, right? Then there is this release state, which is in principle the same, right? Release state GA means this version is already GA. And then we have the versions itself. That means we just have a list of all versions that we have in the database. So in this case, it was 16.02, 16.01, and 16. This is the versions that we have. It doesn't mean that each distribution has this version. It's just the ones that we collected. And this is also the thing that we use to determine what is the latest available JDK version number. So you will get, and you can imagine if you have something like 11 or 8, it's a huge list of versions because there have been so many updates for these versions. So the list of versions is quite long. Then you can also ask, just give me the latest short-term stable or the latest midterm stable, right? Which is also available. At the moment, this is just available from Azure. But you can ask for that. You can also ask, give me the latest long-term stable release, which is, in this case, it would be 17, right? It's the latest LTS. And before that, it was 11. And you can also ask for the latest GA, which is also, in this case, the 17, but it could be let's say 18 will be released, then it could be that the latest LTS is 17, but the latest GA is 18. Or latest early access, in this case, this is 18. And that was interesting because we had, for a couple of months, we have 17 and 18 have been early access. So you need a way to figure out what is the latest one, which was the 18, right? And you can also ask directly for a major version. You can ask major versions /13. Then you will only get the information about that version. And also, if you would like to have early access included in that, because let's say you have a 17, then you will have 17 is GA already. So we have 17, and now we also have 1701, but there might be also 1702 early access. If you would like to see that in the list, you have to add /EA to get that. The next one is distributions endpoint, which just gives you the information about the distributions. And just to make that clear, we don't have any vendors in the database. So this is vendor neutral. So you will see names like Microsoft or Red Hat. This is just because they don't really have a specific name for the distribution. Like, let's say the Tamarin, which is the name for the new Adoptium build, or Zulu, which is the build name from the distribution name from Azure. And so Xamaru is for IBM, but Microsoft has just Microsoft builds of OpenJDK. So that's the reason why we just name it Microsoft. But we don't have, apart from that stuff, we don't have any vendor information. Let's say you call it the distribution /Zulu. Then this would be, for example, the result that you get. That means you get the name, an API parameter. Then you see some fields that are not really filled with data yet, which is hash algorithms and signature URIs and stuff. This is prepared for future use. And we will fill that over time in the future. And then you see versions. And that means this is all versions that we have available for Zulu. And in this case, it was at that point, it was 17EA, 16EA, 1501, and so on and so on. So you can see all the different versions that we have for Zulu available. But again, this is only the versions. That doesn't mean it's available for your system, right? Because it could be that we have, let's say, 1305 for Mac, but not for Windows, which is probably not true, but this could happen, right? This is just the available versions in the database. Next one would be, and this is the biggest endpoint, which is the packages one. This is the actual one that you can ask for a specific package. So that means it has a lot of URL parameters like version, from version to version. That means you can also define a range of versions. Let's say you would like to say, give me all packages from version 11.02 to version 11.09. And then you will only get this list of versions. You could also do version by definition, which means I will have an example for that one later on. You can ask for distro, which is, for example, Zulu or Tamarin or whatever, Xamaru, Microsoft. The architecture, of course, and there are a lot of different ones. The archive type, package types, operating system. I just will go quickly through the list because it's a long one. These are just, you can see, you can also ask for JavaFX bundle because we have a couple of distributions that come with JavaFX bundled. There have been Corrado builds in the past from JDK 8. They came with JavaFX bundled, and then there is Liberica, the distribution from Bellsoft that comes with the JavaFX bundled version, and Zulu is also available with JavaFX bundled. And then there is this flag directly downloadable. I will also come to that one. And then there is something like latest, where you can have different parameters for latest. But I will come to that. So directly downloadable. Yeah, that was interesting because, Oracle's JDK wasn't available directly for download. Now you can argue, well, I can go to the page and then directly download it from there. That's correct. But before you can download, you have to click through the page. You have to agree to their licensing terms and so on. And for this reason, it's for us not directly downloadable. That means what we do, because we don't want to click through this list automatically, we just pass you the link to the page where you can do it. And if you have tools that depend on the directly downloadable flag. That's the thing where you can just filter. You can say, just give me the packages that I can download directly, and don't give me the stuff where I have to click through the page, right? The Red Hat builds are the same. The Red Hat JDK is also only downloadable if you go to the page and click through and stuff like that. Exactly. These have directly downloadable faults. But for Oracle, that changed with JDK 17. They changed the licensing terms. So that means you now can download everything above 17 directly. So that, and also Disco will provide that links. And like I said, we only return the link to that download page in this case. The next one, this would be, for example, one of the results you get. If you ask for a package, then you get probably a package ID, the archive type, the distribution, the major version, and so on, all these things. The Java version, which is in Semver style, and you have something like libc type, which is not clear for everyone, but there is, there we have this. You might have heard of Linux, Alpine Linux, and that comes with a different libc version, which is a Musel. And that's probably very good for use it on microservices or something on Docker builds and stuff, because it's very small. And that means if you just would search for Linux, then you might want to get it, or you might get a distribution that doesn't work on your machine. So that's the reason why we have to really determine which is the libc type, right? And only for Alpine Linux, it's Musel, and then for the others, you can probably check that. We have the file name, and then you see we have the ephemeral ID, and there is also a so-called package info URI. That means if you click that, or if you call that, it will directly give you a little bit more information about the package and the direct download link. The whole thing is open source, and you will find it on GitHub under GitHub foo.io DiscoAPI. This contains everything that runs in production except the REST controllers, because we host them on our own infrastructure, and there is some code in there that we don't want to share. But this is exactly the stuff that we use, and all the scraping and stuff we do to get the latest packages. You can check there. So now let me give you some examples. I need the latest JDK. What is available? Okay, you can just ask for packages type equals JDK and latest equals available. Then you will get a list, and on top of the list, you will get the latest available package that it's found in this case. But this is not really specific, because you will get a huge list for all operating systems, architectures, libc types, and so on and so on. But if you're interested in what's the latest, you can go this way. Then you can also do what versions are available in distribution XYZ. Let's say you would like to say what's available from Zulu. Then you can ask for distributions / Zulu, and then you get only the stuff that is available from Zulu. We saw that already. But this is now only for one distribution instead of getting all distributions. Or something like who has version 11.0.9.1. So you can call the packages endpoint with version equals and then with the version number. And then you will get a list of all the available packages that have this version number. Right? And we support different kinds of version numbering schemes. So that means you can do the newer one, which is you have the feature version, interim version, update version, and patch. And this is the current one. And you can also use the older one. You can also do something like 1.8_302 or 8.0.302. All this stuff should work. You can even do 8U302. That would also work. And if not, then just let us know. You can just always file an issue on GitHub. You can ask for the latest LTS JDK for macOS, including JavaFX. And you see the URLs will get longer and longer because of all the different parameters. But you can ask version by definition. That means I would just like to have the latest LTS version that's available. I have no idea what it is. Just give me the latest long-term stable. I would like to have a JDK. The operating system is macOS. It should have JavaFX bundled, and I would like to have the latest per version. Or there's also latest available, which is in principle the same. And then you will get the packages that fulfill this question. Or is there an update available for 11.08, right? This is easy because you can just ask for the major versions, and then you see in the list of versions that there is, for example, in this case, 11.0.9.1. So there are it's not only one update, but even two in this case. Right, so you can do stuff like that. You can also ask for a very specific version, like this one, 1.80275 for Windows as an MSI, and then you will get probably the right result. And then you can even more specify it for the distribution. If you would like to have, for example, one specific one, you can ask for that and only get the result. So you can really drill down to one package in the end, if you like. And to make it easier, we created some IDE plugins. So there is a plugin for IntelliJ, for Eclipse, for NetBeans, and even for Visual Studio Code. The IntelliJ plugin, and you will see that they probably look nearly the same. And that's the current approach, but I'm currently working on new plugins, so they might change in the future. And you can here just see, you can select JavaFX bundled or not, because that really limits the distributions to two, more or less, which is Zulu and Liberica. And then you can choose the major version, and as soon as you choose it, it will update all the other fields. So that means if you choose major version 16, then you will see version number will go to 16.02 because that's the latest one. Distribution will again go to Zulu. And there is a reason why we sorted in reverse alphabetical order. So the Zulu will be on top. The reason is that we have distributions for Zulu from 6 till 18. And that's the main reason, because whatever you choose, you can nearly make sure that there's always a version available. Right? That's the reason. It's the only distribution who is capable of doing that. Just if you wonder. Okay, and then of course you can choose, right? If you choose the operating system, then the libc type will change. For example, if you choose macOS, then libc type will be just libc. And then in the architecture, you can choose between ARC64 and X64. And then the archive type, it will only show what's available. And once you drilled it down to the package you would like to have, you see the package name, you can press download and it will download it to your, it will not install it. So it will download it to your hard drive and you can install it manually. Eclipse, very similar. You see it looks the same. It's available under Disco Eclipse in the Eclipse marketplace, where the IntelliJ one was Disco IDEA in the IDEA marketplace. We have a NetBeans plugin. This is a little bit different. That's more complex, and it comes with NetBeans bundled already. It has different possibilities. You see, you can, instead of choosing, you can the drop-down boxes, you can just choose with the slider and can download it directly, and it will also install it from NetBeans, and then it's available in NetBeans directly. So this is that's the way how it's used there. And in the latest NetBeans version, it comes with it. And then you see after you install it, it will just appear as an installed Java platform in NetBeans, so which is quite convenient. Okay, yeah, here you can see what's available. And Visual Studio Code, we also wrote a little plugin for that, which is Disco VSC, can be downloaded on the Visual Studio Code marketplace. Same behavior, works in the same way. And because what I usually do is when I download a JDK, I go to the browser, go to the page and download it. I thought maybe instead of using the IDE, why not using the browser directly? So I wrote little browser extensions like a Chrome extension, which looks like this. And it's just a little icon. And once you install it, it's the same. It works the same as the other plugins. You just choose the major version, and then you can drill down to the package and download it. And it will directly download it to your download folder on your machine. You can find it under Disco Chrome in the Chrome Web Store. And And here, I think it's a little video. That's how it looks like. So you just choose a version, let's say 18, okay, 1801. Then it shows you what is available. Okay, these 3 distributions have it. Then you can choose the operating system, the libc type. You see, okay, there's, and then the architecture, archive type. And once you have that, you can just press the download button and download the file. And that's how it works. And directly from the browser, you don't even need to go to some page or whatever. So you just can download it from the browser extensions. I think it's quite convenient. Okay, you see, it really depends. You see, if you have something like 11 or 11, there are a lot of distributions that offer this version, and there might be others that are not really offered by any distribution. Okay, and then we have the same in principle for Firefox. There's a Firefox add-in. It looks always the same. It works the same. It's called DiscoFox, and it's available on the Firefox add-ons page. And there is an Edge extension. Again, same functionality. So Disco Edge in this case. And there is a Safari extension, which is called Disco Safari, and that you have to download from the Mac App Store, and then it will install it in the Safari browser on your Mac. And then again, it's the same as the others. And for Opera, there's also one called Disco Opera, and this is available on the Opera add-ons page. Okay, and then there are also other plugins. For example, if you would like to add this thing on your website, I have something that I put on my own blog where you can just have one HTML snippet that you can just pass into this HTML JavaScript snippet block on your website, and then it will just put this window that you see there in that area, and then you can download it from your website if you like. For example, if you work on a university and you would like to offer the students an easy way to download the JDK, you can just put that on your university website in some place, and then you can download it from there directly. We have some shell scripts where you can directly download stuff from the shell if you need. You need JQ to be installed for that. And the one is called Disco Distributions, Disco Major Versions, and Disco Packages, which are in principle 3 scripts that just call these endpoints. And I don't want to go into these details, but you can use it also from the shell. I just skip through because we just have 5 minutes left. The source for the script is here. It's also on GitHub. And it changed from Fuji 2020. I just see that to Fuji.io. So I didn't change the slide yet. I have to change it. And then we have other tools. I wrote a little tool called JDKmon, which is in principle a tool that you can start when your machine starts, and it will sit in the system tray with a little icon, and it will check every 3 hours for your installed JDKs. Doesn't matter which distribution it is. And it will check using the DiscoAPI for if there is an update available, and if there is an update, it will show it to you in this list, right? And then it will directly give you the available package types, like in this case, let's say ZuluFX 1109, that's the installed one. And you see there is 11010, and then there's a DMG, a tar, or a zip, and you can just click on one of these icons and it will download it directly to your machine, and then you can install it. And the same tool has also this functionality that you saw already, so you can also drill down and download whatever distribution you're interested in to your machine by using JDKmon. And this is a JavaFX tool, and it's also on GitHub. This is on my personal account, /HanSolo JDKmon releases. You can always get the latest release there. And then an interesting thing is that you can use, we wrote a GitHub action that is in principle a fork of the setup Java thing that's used by GitHub Actions. And instead of using the setup Java version 1, where you couldn't really choose a distribution, it was always Zulu. And there's also the reason because Zulu was available for most of the versions. So that's the reason why they choose that. And then someone was asking for, they would like to use Adapt OpenJDK. So they changed it to version 2 and make it available. And now there's Adopt, Zulu, and Tamarin available at the moment. But let's say you would like to run your GitHub action against SAP machine builds or something else. Then you have to either write your own stuff or you can, I don't know, but there's nothing available yet. So therefore, we created the setup Java at Disco. It's in the Disco branch of the setup Java and Fuji.io. And with this one, you can use whatever distribution we have available with the version numbers and so on. So with this, it's you can use GitHub Actions with your distribution of your choice and your version to run your GitHub Action stuff, your CI builds or whatever. We created a Disco testing matrix that tests all these different available versions and distributions. And it shows it in a README. You see with the green lights, it's okay. And if there's a red one, it's not okay. And at the moment, you will find a lot of red ones because we are currently updating the Disco API, and it's running on against the staging area, and the staging area is not really in good shape at the moment. So that's the reason why at the moment this is you will find a lot of red icons there just to keep you informed. Then there's other tools like the Java Almanac, which is a really interesting page, and this is using the Disco API in the background. Then we have JBang. You might have heard of that. It's also using Disco in the background to update or download JDKs. And then there's SDKman, and they run a daily job against Disco API to get the latest JDKs and update their own database with our data. And with this, I'm done on time, I hope. And if you have any questions, you can just ping me on Twitter or wherever, or here in the chat. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you for presenting. I was actually typing a question in the Rocket, but then I have seen your thing about the scripts. I was actually curious if you have a tool for the command line, so you can say something like, "Hey, in this terminal, I want to use Java 7, and it will take care of downloading it, storing it, and setting environment variables. So after I set command set JVM to whatever." After the command executes, I can start running Maven or whatever on that Java inside that terminal.
Mm-hmm. With the scripts that we did, it's just you could download whatever distribution you like. At least the stuff that we have in the database, which should be at the moment, it's around 29,000 packages, and all of them are available. So if you can just call it and download the package and then extract it and install it on your machine. And that's in principle what we do with the setup Java thing on GitHub Actions. That's exactly the same thing. We just get the package, install it in the container, and then we run the tests against it or whatever you like. So yeah, and I know also from other tools that they already use the Disco API to just get this stuff via scripts. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation and for being with us today. Of course, people will see your talk afterwards because it is recorded, so they can come back to you with questions and you'll be available for them, right?
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Thank you very much. See you later.